Awesome. Okay, so we are going to talk to you today about InSTEP and how you could use it to support both practicing mathematics teachers, but also your pre-service mathematics teachers. I am Emily Thrasher, and I work at the Friday Institute on the ESTEEM team. And Jima is here with me today too. And since she's already run a few of these webinars, you might all be very familiar with her. And she works here also with me at the Friday Institute at NC State. So we both help develop InSTEP and are on that grant. And so just to get, nope, won't let me move forward. There we go. Interesting. Just to get it out of the way, InSTEP is an NSF-funded project. And we contract with RTI, and they are the developers of our platform. But we are a big team with led by Highland Lee and Jima Mojika here. And we have a lot of folks that work on this project, and it takes all of them to actually make this platform work. And so I just want to honor everyone's contributions. So just to get out of the way, if you do want these slides, this is the bit.ly that can get you to the slides. There aren't links or anything, so you don't necessarily have to download them, but I know there are folks out there that really appreciate getting slide decks. And so I want to make sure we honor that. So I'm just going to give it another second here.
She's referring to me, y'all. I don't care when I go somewhere. I always want the slide deck, and so I always like share it.
She's right. I am referring to Jiva.
She's specifically referring to me. So for those of you like me who just want the slide deck for reference to jog your memory, it's not like one of our usual presentations though, where you kind of need it to get through the presentation. But I think I was giving people also a moment for those of you that do want it to like open it up and get settled.
Okay, so I want to just first start with where we were when we proposed InSTEP. And so an action to promote data literacy put out by EDC said, we're calling for a revolution in education, placing data literacy at its core. And this was in 2016, and this project was proposed in 2018, 2019. We've been around for about 6 years. And so we were thinking about what we could do to really support data literacy. And we know that teachers are underprepared to teach statistics and data science. In fact, back in 2019, Horizon Research found that only 31% of US high school math teachers feel prepared to teach statistics and data science, and 27% of our computer science teachers. So that we have a ways to go on getting people feeling prepared. But then also, teachers are really busy, and it's only gotten worse since COVID. But in 2019, again, only 60% of our US math teachers were spending 35 hours or less on professional development across 3 years. So just not getting a lot of professional development. So when we were thinking about those different factors and trying to come up with a solution, our solution is this InSTEP platform. And what it is a personalized learning platform to support the teaching and learning of statistics and data science for teachers in grades 6 through 12. And we say plus because really some of these things could easily be put into the undergraduate classroom, or I guess course. And so our platform is meant to be asynchronous, although we have found it works well to use it with groups and to go through it and assign things and then talk together. But it is meant to be something that can be personalized for your own goals and allows you to go at your own pace. So I'm not going to convince you about its virtues. I'm going to let you dive in. And I want everybody to go ahead and actually register, because we're going to have you take time to go into different parts of the platform and actually look around to see what's there. So what you need to do is you need to go to instepwithdata.org. And when you get there, after you go to instepwithdata.org, you're going to go to register now, and it's going to ask some questions. And those questions, well, are to help us give you recommendations in the platform and for us to learn a little bit about you, and then also to assign terms and conditions, that kind of thing. Once you do that, it's going to put you on our Learning Hub page and it's going to give you a tour. Go ahead and go through the tour and get acquainted with that page. And then I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this. And then Jimin's going to take over telling you a little bit about what you see and lead you through parts of the platform. I'm going to stop sharing, Jima, and let you share because you're going to want to, right?
Yeah, I'll start sharing while people are, I know it'll take you a few minutes to get registered. And some of you may already be registered, but it might take you a minute or so to find your password or whatever. So I'll wait a minute or so. And as people, several of you are already in, as we're waiting for everyone else to get in, or for at least me to get the acknowledgement, right? This is a discussion we're gonna have, and you can feel free. You should feel like this is an informal session where you should feel like we're inviting you to be part of the conversation. But if you don't want to share, you can put things in the chat too, but just go ahead and start reflecting on your own experiences with online learning, whether it's your experiences as a learner yourself or in situations where you're teaching undergraduates or doing professional development with teachers or teaching teachers. So one of the things I wanted us to think about before we go into the InSTEP platform is, so what features or aspects of online learning facilitate or organize learning? And then what are some of the limitations or challenges have encountered in online learning experiences? And particularly focusing on those around mathematics or statistics education or some other STEM education. Oh, hey, great. We've got more people coming in. Welcome. So chime in to say if you need us to slow down at any point. So,
Yeah, and Tim, just go ahead and get yourself an account if you don't already have one.
yes. Um,
And you want us to answer those questions in the chat, is that right?
Perfect then. So either in the chat or if you want to volunteer to share. But yeah, if let's think about this first one. What are some of the things that you look for in a platform or when you are using an LMS, anything that you use online? What are the things that you think help support learning, or are there specific features that you think help organize learning? If you either want to share or if you want to put in the chat, let's go ahead and start our discussion.
Well, I'll share that. um, I mean, I don't think I have that much experience as a learner. And my only experience as an educator is during the pandemic. But I've done a few things online, and I guess what is helpful is if it's all asynchronous, like if the suggested sequence of things to do is very clear, and if there are choices, if it's clear, like on what basis we would make certain choices. Again, like sort of to help us navigate the platform with all the asynchronous materials.
Mhm. Someone in the chat, you can read the chat yourself, but I'm gonna also read it one more time. Shared that a well-designed user interface is important because you don't always engage with online platforms possibly on a regular basis. So you need to be reminded of where you were, right? So, and you'll see some of that actually in the InSTEP platform. Because we did, when we designed this, wanted to design something flexible and so it could be personalized so people could use the resources and materials at their own pace. And one of the things we learned from the work we did with the MOOCs was I might not have an hour I might only have 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 20 minutes. So we try to also create pieces of learning and resources and materials so that you could, in your 20 minutes, go find something that works for you. So some type of interface, like you're saying, that reminds you of where you've been and what you've completed, like is super helpful, I think, in providing that flexibility and that personalization. Anybody want to share anything else or want to add anything to the chat before we move on? What about limitations? What are some of the challenges and limitations we face either in our work with undergraduate teachers or graduate teachers or working in professional development experiences?
I know for me, like generally, like with my undergrad students, they like to do a lot of things on their phones, and some things are not mobile friendly. So that's one thing. And then I guess another thing would be that sometimes they just have short attention spans, right? So like
Mhm.
we're asking them to do a whole lot before they get some type of feedback online, especially if
Mm,
I'm not facilitating it, right? I can't be like, oh yeah, you're on the right track or something like that. Like
yeah.
they do a lot and don't get any like immediate feedback. And I think they and even myself like the, like, oh yeah, I'm on the right track. I'm actually doing something. And so that's kind of what I think.
Greg, thank you so much for sharing both of those issues. One, I just want to briefly touch on, and then Emily, help us remember later to discuss Greg's second point more thoroughly. I'm going to touch on it right now before we go into the platform. But this issue of you'll see we use tools like CODAP a lot, or other tools that they're working towards making those experience optimal for like a mobile device like a phone, although they work pretty good on an iPad or a tablet. But when you're choosing tools, right, to work with your teachers, your prospective teachers, it can be challenging if they want to use that phone, like Greg said, but then they really can't get invested and engage with ideas around data with that device. The second issue, I don't know that I was planning to highlight as much, but I just will try to say now, for Emily and I at least, this whole issue of feedback was a struggle. I'm just going to admit it. As for me as a designer, it's very challenging when you're creating a platform where people are coming in asynchronously and you're asking them to do things like data investigations, or here's a learning module and they've just engaged with a reading or a multimedia resource like a video. But then if you're asking them to reflect and do things, well, then how are they going to know, like, how are they going to get any feedback? And so we have incorporated, you'll see them sometimes, they're not everywhere, where we provide some expert insights. And the experts are not necessarily a statistician or a stats or a data science educator. Sometimes it's a teacher. Sometimes it might be a student voice, but it's trying to provide some feedback. Like, for example, if you engage in this data investigation, you might be able to see a video of someone working through. It's not to say that this is the ideal way to do it, but it's just to provide some feedback. So there are some ways that we've tried to incorporate that. So be on the lookout for that. And then someone else is saying, too much sitting makes my body hurt. My body just hurts because I'm at that age. I'm having a big one this year. The big 5-0. And it's easy to, to not do it, like the
Yeah.
limited accountability in cases. So
Yeah.
one of the things Emily and I have tried to think about in our work with teachers is, can you form like get a partner, or can you work with other teachers? A lot of times we'll go work with districts or we'll work with teachers where these people are all interested in learning more about this and we're learning together. So they might do some things on the site, but then we actually have some face-to-face meetings. So that might be a way, I think, to encourage this accountability. But I definitely agree that that could also be a challenge.
Yeah. And also hits on Tim's synchronous versus asynchronous and taking advantage of synchronous. Definitely, we have seen, Tim, that synchronous has its advantages and that a lot of folks really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, when you're thinking about using this platform, as Gima is going to start transitioning to actually getting in the platform, when you're thinking about using this platform, thinking about how you can take these asynchronous activities and turn them into synchronous experiences for the groups of teachers you're working with.
Yeah. And so I appreciate you elaborating more on what Tim put in there, but that's what I was also trying to get at with there's lots of different models, and using this in a way that makes the most sense for the learner that you're working with. Yeah, you need to think carefully about that. So I'm going to just take you through a little tour of the platform. I want to show you something on the About page, and then we'll actually go to the Learning Hub if that's where you are. But one of the ways that we have organized this platform for you is that you have two big opportunities to learn. One is around data investigations. And after I show you some quick things, Emily's going to have you engage with the data investigation. So I'm not going to say too much about the data investigations. So the data investigations is one way. It's right here. And then the other way is to go into different learning modules. And the way that we've organized them is we've thought about what are the ways in a classroom when you're working with data and statistics or data science, what are the elements of the teacher's work that we need to design in order to support student thinking? And so it's important to think about the tools you're going to use, right? The data you're going to use, how students have discourse and how they make arguments, assessing your student thinking, the tasks you choose. And then most importantly, like when we think about organization, data and statistical practices, like, there's mathematical practices, there's data and statistical practices that kind of overarch all the work that you do. And it's always about these central statistical ideas. So you can go into one of these dimensions, and within each dimension, there should be a learning module. So I just wanted to share that. If I go back really quickly to this webinar slide deck, you can see right here that this just shows you these are these dimensions. Again, I just wanted to emphasize that these practices and the statistical ideas kind of envelop everything. So you are probably at the Learning Hub, and I already have that open. And so again, Emily will have you spend some time doing a data investigation. And what I'm going to do is just take you through just one of the modules very quickly so you can get a sense of it. And then I'll touch on some key features of the dashboard. And then I'm going to turn it over to Emily. So I'm going to go into data and statistical practices. And when you click on it, you can see that there's two modules in this dimension. And none of this is meant to be linear. There's no place to start that you need to start at, and there's no place like that you need to end. We know that people have different experiences and different knowledge. If you do some of those surveys that you're encouraged to do at the beginning, it'll give you some recommendations. If you don't know where to start, this is always, we think, a good place for people to start. But what you can see is it shows you the module. There is an ability to save things to what's called a playlist. So it's imagining like you're bookmarking something or you want to save it. So you could save individual modules or you could save individual resources. So I'm going to continue and go on into this first module. And on the left, oh, you can see I've been here before. So what'll happen is this first essential, once you have completed it, you would click on mark as complete, and then it knows where you've been. So this is one of, someone had mentioned the feature of I need to know where I've left off. This helps you keep track of what you've done. And so each of the modules is organized where there's probably 5 to 6 essentials. We try not to do too many. And then below these essential resources, which we think are kind of the fundamental things that support learning about this idea. So this one's about, again, data and statistics practices. You can see that one of the things that we think is essential is someone learning about students' habits of mind and their dispositions. You can see that there's part of this is a reading and that there's also a video. And we think it probably takes you about 15 minutes you know, to complete. And so you can see there's other things that we think are important, like what are the differences between statistics and mathematics? So again, you can see this kind of combination of reading, but then there's also a video. And then we provide, you know, any like citations and resources at the bottom. If you wanted to save this resource, you can save this resource, and then you can create a playlist where you add it to a playlist. You also could download this as a PDF if you wanted. And then in addition to these essential resources, we have a bunch of extended resources. So I am going to show you the dashboard because all of our modules are essentially organized in this way. So if you click on the dashboard at the top, what the dashboard provides is it is a snapshot of things you've done, and it saves things so you can pick up where you left off. It also provides recommendations for you. So if you come in and you're just like, there's just so many resources, there's so many places to start. I'm not sure where to tell my students to go. I'm not sure where to tell the teachers I'm working with to go. I'm not sure where I want to go. It gives you some recommendations. And then you can see here, 86% of this is complete. So then I can click on resume and it takes me back to that resource. And it keeps track of all the things you've opened and things along the way. Emily's going to talk about this group feature later, so I'm not going to talk about the group features. I just wanted to again share that you could save resources. You could make a playlist and save them in a playlist. If you have completed 10 hours of professional learning, or if your students or teachers have, they would get a certificate from the platform. You'd find them there.
And can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah.
It's gonna switch to every 5 hours
Very
in the
soon.
next couple of weeks. We have just made that change, and it should be populating on the website within the next week or two.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is just give you a little bit of time to look around. So don't go to a data investigation yet, but take a look at these 7 dimensions and just take a look at, I don't know, a module that you're particularly interested in. And Emily, how much time do you think at this point should we give people to look around?
I think, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I think we have plenty of time. I'd rather people, if you give people time, they're more likely to look around. Whereas if we say, go do it later, just like all of us, we push it off.
Okay, so we'll start with 5 minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll do a check-in to see if anyone just wants a little bit more time. But again, go in, pick a module, and I think I was going to try to find something to show you the expert insights since that came up. Oh, well, you know what, Emily, when you do a data investigation, I know there's some expert insights in the data investigations. Okay, I've tried to use my best wait time possible. Everyone that knows me knows that is one of my worst qualities as a teacher. But I'm gonna pick up and we're just gonna have a little reflection, and then I'm gonna turn things over to Emily. So I shared some things on the dashboard with you, and then I just wanted, now that you've had had a little bit of time, I know that's not sufficient time, right? I just wanted people to reflect on what they saw and engaged with, and then think about, are there features that you see on the platform that you think could be really helpful in your own context in terms of supporting learning or helping whoever whether you have practicing teachers or prospective teachers, how it helps them organize their learning? So what things maybe are more useful? Someone in the chat, if you hadn't been reading the chat, pointed out the progress that got brought up earlier seemed to be really helpful. And I had commented back that when we did a study to figure out like what was most useful, this was one of the features that teachers who are in our pilot study said was one of the most useful features in an online learning environment in our platform. Is there anything that stood out to anybody else that they want to either share in the chat, or again, feel free to you can also share verbally too.
I was curious. I didn't get all the way through all the CODAP things because I would love to learn about CODAP. And I was wondering whether any of them have live CODAP examples that you can use while using this platform.
Well, first of all, Tim, I think you're actually in here somewhere. Your Awash is in here, right, Emily?
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, it's in here. I think that we don't have, like, do you mean by like maybe we've embedded the CODAP file like on the page? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, like in Awash,
Uh-huh.
I don't want to belabor it because other people might not know it, but whether somebody learning the first steps of CODAP would actually get to use them on the platform, or whether, because I've seen pictures,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
I
so
think
one of the things that we try to do to support is we actually send people to like, so if you're a new user of CODAP, they have great help. We try to send people to CODAP itself. We recommend you do those. They have a couple of how-tos, like how you work with, like we send people to those. We share like video resources of how to do different things. But I think for the most part, we have not embedded the CODAP files. We had issues with that in the MOOC. So when we did MOOC work, there were issues with sizing.
We
Emily, you want to say more?
Yeah, we can't embed because of accessibility issues right now, so we have to send
course.
out. So we
Right.
send out to CODAP, but we do have already made like as you would expect, already made documents so that people can have some direction, a little bit of direction on when you get sent out to CODAP. And then as Gima was alluding to, we do make videos to try and help people get that feedback to be able to use CODAP and learn some of the features and be able to engage. But we can't embed it because of an accessibility.
I mean, I
Okay.
think the only thing that I've run across is if you go to our data investigation, there's a 77 serials data file for CODAP. It's a CODAP document, but it shows like this moving from the case card view to the table view. Like that's dynamic, but that's the only instance I could think of. But you're really not even using CODAP. It's just like a dynamic image where
Uh-huh.
but if accessibility were different, we would probably do that.
And maybe after the new version comes out, that is something we can think about again. But so far, we have been told not to embed it because of accessibility.
Right. And there's supposed to be better accessibility in version 3 when it comes out.
That is my understanding, but
Awesome.
I actually haven't investigated that at all.
But
So I'm not sure.
it's also an interest, and I don't want to take up too much time, but it's
No.
an interesting balancing question. How many different organizations are going to make introductory videos or videos of
Yeah.
a particular thing? And so to the extent that we can link to one another's videos is great and help people get to other resources,
Yes.
as long as they can get back to the platform easily.
Yes. And this is a design feature of our platform. It's not just that we think we've created all these wonderful things. We like know other people do things well. And so what we're trying to do is get you to the resources that are great. So there's things that Tim has done that we've linked to. There's other CODAP things. So we always try to share a resource from like its original creator that we know has been vetted and is useful. So I just wanted to share that if you have things that you think we need to be sharing, please reach out to us and let us know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you can see for CODAP help in the tech tools module, there's module on
I
CODAP.
can-
And then then the second module in the tech tools dimension is a help, like with different technology features, and one of them has a help with CODAP,
Oh.
and it does link out to a bunch of videos
Oh, Emily, I was
from
getting
other
ready to try to
folks.
share that, but I like just deleted my
Oh,
whole-
here,
anyway.
okay, no worries, I got you.
Um,
Here we go. And I
I just
can,
closed all my windows that had everything
you're
open. I
fine.
think I'm almost done anyway, but why don't you show them where?
Yeah, and so if you go to the tech tools module, there's first of all just a whole module on using CODAP,
Because we
and
use it
you
so much in
you
our
can work through
work.
that. But then if you go to the technology support, this is a good example of where we tried to say,
Yeah. This is
here
what I was
are
trying to
things that
describe earlier. Yeah.
here are places you can go in CODAP, because actually they're getting started and their help page is wonderful. But
Mhm.
also here are different videos that you can go to that are set up to be different ways to do things in CODAP. So we try to curate the things that are out there and pull them together for you. So even if you weren't having, like, let's say you're teaching a class, even if you weren't having your students sign into InSTEP, you could still use this as somewhere to go and find some resources that you could link to for your students.
And we use a Creative Commons license. So for those of you who are familiar with our ESTEEM modules, we also use a Creative Commons license for InSTEP, meaning you can take anything that's here, you can use it as long as you're citing, the original source, right? And so you see us even do that in InSTEP and ESTEEM a lot. It'll say adapted from, and the resources there. So that was a good question. And I didn't know it before. I'm going to turn it over to you, Emily. But is there anything anyone wanted to also bring to the surface in terms of, or a question you might have also for me or Emily of things other than the data investigations or the group features? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you because I think that this is one of the most exciting parts about the InSTEP platform.
Wonderful. So Jima just showed you our modules, which are really meant to be more of a learning how to do the teaching and learning of data science and statistics. They have a more pedagogical focus or learning some kind of content understanding, whereas data investigations are meant for teachers to dig into data themselves, to actually engage with data and learn from that experience. It doesn't mean they couldn't take some of these examples and adapt them for the classroom, but they're really developed for the teacher to be a learner in mind. And so on that Learning Hub page, you can either go up in this first section and you can click through them, but I tend to find it easier to just go to the data investigations page, and then you can easily see the different data investigations. So we have 6 up here right now. The last 2 are a part 1 and part 2. You technically can jump right into part 2, but I would suggest doing both parts. But they are designed so that you don't have to do them in order. But I am going to, I think I'm just going to pick a random one to give a quick overview. And then I'm going to let you pick which one you want to do and give you an opportunity to go through it. But in all of these data investigations, they are set up around our data investigation cycle or data investigation process, excuse me. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this data investigation process was developed using all of our knowledge that we have in stats ed and all the data investigation cycles, but also incorporating in practices that we see from data scientists and what they say they experience and do. And so what we do is we try to develop investigations where you dig into big, messy data, but also you are experiencing going through these different phases. And we intend for the puzzle pieces to show you that it is not necessarily a linear process, and so you could jump around. And so what you see on your page, and I need to zoom out. It feels very big to me. Maybe y'all are seeing something different than I am. But when you go in to a data investigation, you'll see on the left side, just like in the modules, it gives you where you're going to go in the different pieces. And you'll see that they are using this data investigation process as their big headings. And then we have different pieces under. And in this one, you go through them in order. However, if you were to go back and look at something like, nope, no, this one doesn't either. I'm going to start here then.
I will
They will
say
go
in
back and forth. This is a good
cereal,
one. This one jumps back and forth between frame the problem, consider, explore, consider. And so it goes back and forth, and they're not necessarily in a linear fashion
I was
going
just going
through
to
the
point
data
out
investigation
when
process.
you had serial open, it
I'm
does
going
go
back.
back. Oh, you don't have to. I was just trying to, even though
Oh.
it doesn't say it, you are actually going back to the context and re-examining.
That's true.
We don't label it that way in this one, but I feel like you really are going back to
I
that.
agree.
I was just trying to help you not to go to the other one, but you found a good one to show.
So in these, what you do notice, and I'm actually going to jump back to one I haven't already engaged in. You notice that they aren't checked and there's these little locks over here. Whereas in the modules, you could jump around because we intend these to be a learning experience where you need to go somewhat linearly to really engage properly to have the best learning possible. We have these locked in order. And so that's a big difference you'll see. So what I would like to encourage you, and we're running a little short on time, which is okay. I would like you to take about 3 to 5 minutes to pick one of these data investigations that interests you the most and go through it. And as you're going through it, think about what you like about it and what you're engaging in, but also how you might use this with in your different contexts, either with your pre-service teachers or maybe with in-service teachers. So we're going to take about 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. Does anyone need another minute or two? Well, now that you've had a chance to look on your own a little bit, I just want to highlight a few features that maybe you noticed or you didn't, and that we had mentioned earlier. I went into the fish catch data. What you may have noticed is that some of our data investigations are more EDA, open exploration, kind of determine your own question and then make some visualizations and explore it. While others are more specific and really take you down a specific like statistical idea. Our fish catch, I'm sorry, struggled with that. Fish catch investigation is more focused on looking at linear regression and fit for linear regression. And so I just wanted to highlight that idea of feedback and how we tackled it here in InSTEP. But you'll see that we try to highlight when it's an apply, meaning there's something you're actually supposed to do. And so in this case, it's taking you out to a CODAP workspace where it's asking you to engage and giving you some directions on how to engage. And there's a few applies here on the page. And then we also give you, if you're new to CODAP, here's some places you could go to get some support if you need it. But then also, we give you some expert insights and to try and show you what somebody who did do the work may have been thinking about and actually have done. And in this case, we use a lot of screenshots and text, but there's others where it's a video of us actually playing in CODAP. And so that is our attempt at giving some feedback. When we first launched InSTEP and we did different focus groups and whatnot to get feedback, one of the things we heard most is that people really appreciate feedback, but it's definitely something, as Jima mentioned earlier, that we have found challenging in an asynchronous space. So something to really, something we're still working at it. And if anybody has any ideas, we'd love to hear them on how you're giving good feedback in asynchronous spaces. So just to close us out on this section, did anybody have any thoughts about how they would use the data investigations with a group of teachers or pre-service teachers? Or do they have general thoughts about the data investigations and what they noticed or questions about it before we move on? I can't seem to see my chat.
I can read it if you want, Emily.
Okay, I found it. I found it. Sometimes, you know, you have to push your cursor all over the screen to try and get it to come back. Oh, I agree on this. Investigating data, democratic representations 1 and 2 is a very timely topic. I agree. It also does a really nice job of starting to think about, you know, moving from more informal inference to formal inference and thinking about p-values. And so I agree. It's timely in the sense that of what's going on in our world, but also helps really push an idea. Um, Oh, I love this idea of that Tim said, if you're synchronous, start out in pairs. I agree. I think people actually really enjoy thinking about these together. And when we run webinars on how to use InSTEP in person, I actually say, find your neighbor, pick one of the data investigations, go through it together and chat. But we've found that in these asynchronous, I mean, not asynchronous, but in these virtual spaces, that doesn't work as well. So thank you for those ideas. The last thing I want to mention is this we have a group feature. We just launched this and in InSTEP, and I'm gonna finish us out by talking about how maybe this could help you bridge the asynchronous synchronous space online. Um, so if we go back to our dashboard, and we can go to, I've got too many things open on the page. We can go to my groups. And in this space, there are different groups, and there's a combination of public groups that anybody can be a part of. You can also have a semi-public group where you have to be approved by the moderator, but you can ask to join it. And then you can have private groups. And so if you just take a look, what these groups have in them is they have the ability to post and have conversations around an idea. And then they also have the ability of you to make a playlist and for just your group so that you could all be going through something together. And our vision here was an ability to make private spaces within InSTEP for different groups to be able to engage. And you can't see them because they're private, but we have had a couple different people using them. For example, we have one of the data science, like single credits here at NC State. The instructor there is actually using InSTEP, and he made a group for his class, and he made a playlist and having them go through it, and then they have to engage in discussions, and then they also meet synchronously. And so he's bridging, like doing some work asynchronously and talking about it, and then also talking about it in class while engaging in some of these InSTEP materials for his data science class. So this space is meant to be out there to help bridge that gap. And I think that's about all we have for today. I'm going to skip this question because we actually only have 3 minutes, and instead just leave Gmail and my emails up, and then also ask if there are any questions before we finish out with our 2 minutes. Well, I think that as similar to Gma, I really struggle with wait time. So thank you very much for attending, and contact us if you have any questions, or if maybe you want to collaborate for using InSTEP somehow in your own practice. Oh, no.
Oops. Now it's
I was like, I still